Hey everybody, weekly update video for progress on ARPG Manager. I missed last week due to being ill and then having a very busy weekend while I recovered. Apologies for that. I will tell you that most of what I worked on last week, which was quite laborious, was pricing everything in the game. So not the most exciting video anyway, but crucial to making the economy work. And I'll talk a little bit about why that's important as we go. And I'll also warn you, last night I had a great time. I went to a local middle school and I was a presenter for their STEM night. So I actually gave a presentation 3 times to classroom full of kids interested in how STEM is used in video games. That was good fun. Afterwards, there was a very loud gathering in the cafeteria for their science fair. But I stuck around to talk to kids and parents who had questions that wouldn't fit into the presentation windows I had. So I'm running a little bit out of vocal cords here. So I'm going to try to do this a bit quickly. I'll probably skip over some stuff, but it's mostly background stuff. So I'm going to show you the kind of the cool stuff as we go here. We're going to use 2 accounts today because one of the big updates I'm going to show you is the ability to do cross-player trading. And so we're actually going to switch between basically a selling and a buying account as we go. So I'm already logged into the selling account. We're going to switch over to the buyer. The reason we're going to do this is because you can't list an item for sale and then purchase it from yourself. There's all kinds of weird shenanigans that can happen with that. So if I did it with one account, we wouldn't see anything for sale because I'm not allowed to basically buy the things that I've listed for sale. So I'm going to switch over. We're going to hop in game here, and we're on an account here. Now, one thing I'll mention to you, so both of these accounts are level 5, and the reason for this is because this is the level at which the cross-player trading gets unlocked. Player level 1 through 4, you don't have access to this, and in fact, unless you knew for other reasons, it's not even hinted at or really addressed in the game. There's a couple reasons for this. One is to get people oriented in the game and understanding pricing and get some currency under their belt before they have access to the market. The other reason is it's actually going to be a point at which we sort of progress the story, and there's kind of something going on there, which I'll show you as well. So we are going to take a look at the stash where you will see this new list option. Oh, I need to remove this. So I have a gesture controller in the game. It actually recognizes gestures, which is why you can do things like, oh wait, I have a modal up. You can do things like this. You can actually do this on a touch screen to summon this, which is more complicated than pushing these buttons, but it's kind of fun. And there's a gesture in here somewhere. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it just shows a little less than 3 on screen because I'm weird like that, and I left that test code in because it amuses me periodically. Okay, so we have a new list button in the stash here, and this is the option to take an item that is in our player stash and to put it up for sale to other players. I'm going to pull up a piece of aluminium here, and you're going to notice here, I need to put wording and other stuff in here. This is mostly mechanical right now, but you'll notice that it popped back with a number. What it's doing is it's actually looking at the current state of the market and telling us the lowest priced aluminium that's up for sale. And this gives us pricing guidance. So if we want a quick sale, even if we don't make that much, we can price it under that number. If we're comfortable waiting a while, we could price it a bit above. But then we also know that if we sell it at, say, 25, we're probably not going to make a whole lot. This will be something I expand over time. So here are the 3 lowest prices, or here's the lowest price and there are 10 things with that same price to give you that kind of guidance. You can also go search yourself and see what's out there, but this is sort of a shortcut to help you avoid simple mistakes in pricing your items. The other thing that's going to happen here, we're going to determine a price, and it's going to factor in an energy cost. So let's say we want to sell this for 2.5 credits. That's what we're going to list it for. There's an energy cost that we have to pay here to list it. There's 2 reasons for this. One, from the world perspective, is we're actually using, and you'll see this in the story elements, we're using the portal device in a new way to basically transfer these items so that other players can purchase them and transfer it to themselves as well. So we're actually moving this stuff around using the portal device. That's how we get access for the first time, sort of indirectly to other players, basically other habitats and the rest of humanity, which is nowhere near us and definitely inaccessible in the world if we were to hop in a ship and try to fly there or whatever. If you've listened to the background of this, you kind of know what's going on there, but otherwise you'll have to take my word for it. The other reason is purely economic, which is in any game with an economy across players like that, to prevent the infinite scaling of wealth, you need some taxes or some sinks to basically control that inflation and take value out of the economy. So this is a lever you can adjust over time to say, if the overall wealth in the game is growing at a game-breakingly fast pace, you can put more of a tax on the sale of items, adjust prices and things too. So this is another lever to control the economy and make sure that the game stays relatively balanced. The other thing it does is it gives a little bit of a hint to people whether or not something might be worth selling. So if you're about to go list something at a really low price and the energy cost is the same as the price you're paying or whatever, then okay, this is totally not worth flooding the market with it. So it also helps keep things from cluttering up the market by giving you a disincentive to list tons of things at absurdly low prices, for example, which you should instead just take to the shop and sell to the shop in the game to acquire currency. So let's go find an item that is not for sale. We don't have one of these listed, I don't believe. Yep, there are no listed refurbished Frame Plus right now. So we're going to put a price on this. We'll charge 13.5. This input box is a little weird, but the main thing it's doing is making sure that we can't, sell little Bobby tables or, drop table, whatever. So it's really only going to accept a numeric input. So we're going to put a price on this, listed for sale. We've paid that energy cost, and now we should be able, on the buy side, to see this in the market, get access to it, and make a purchase. So I am going to switch accounts now. We are going to jump over to another player, and I'm going to show you the buy side, and then show you some other stuff as well. So we're going to log in here. We're on another account. Let's see. Oh, I don't know why I pulled that up. Reflex. I always reflexively, every time I load in, I check to see is everything charged up, because I tend to send them adventuring, and I keep killing off my test people because I don't refill their frame and stuff before they go. In the actual game, they'll warn you and be like, hey, I don't have an energy field, I'm going to die, I really don't want to go through that portal. I have that disabled right now because I periodically want to kill them off, unfortunately. So that just sort of gets in the way. All right, so this is another level 5 account. And that is reflected here in the fact that we have listing available. The buy side of this, and again, the reason I switched is so we can't buy from ourselves. So this is another player buying from the previous player. I just whacked the microphone. So we have this market option, and these are all our placeholder UI stuff. We don't have the sprites in place yet, so this is our little kind of using the portal device, which is also where they walk when they're going through the portal right now. So this is our, again, basic UI for the market. So we actually put a couple frames up for sale earlier. This is the refurbished frame that we just listed for 13.5. So we come in here, we can keyword search for items. Let's see, no matches found for that. There's probably a tack knife in here. We listed aluminium. We listed a bunch of aluminium or alumni or whatever for different prices. So you can see there's our lowest price. This is going to show you the 10 least expensive results, basically, by keyword. So we're going to search the market for these frames here. And I don't know how many credits I have on this account. Let's see, I have 12.4. So we're going to buy this inexpensive frame just to show you the transfer. This is telling us we can't afford the item. I need to update the message here, but the buy button is only active if we're selecting a row that we can afford. And we can view the stats of this item, which uses our overlay. Oh, interesting. So there's a bug there. It's not switching when I switch rows. But basically what this is supposed to do is let us look at the item overlay and all the info and stats about the item. So I need to fix that. But we can select it, view the item, and then we decide we want the item. Then we place a buy order. It pays the credits. The item is transported from the market into our stash. So now we have a pre-owned frame that we can grab and equip, which we don't need to do because that's fine. And then the credits for that are delivered to the player who listed the item. And if they're logged in at that time, they'll get a notification that one of their items was sold. If they're not, they log in later, they'll see their credit account increased. So as I mentioned, this sort of uses the the portal device to transport these items so that other players on other habitats can get access to them. And the other thing that happens when you reach level 5 now, which is that kind of marquee level that gives you access to the trading, is you get a little bit of an explanation of what's going on. You actually receive a message from an unknown sender. It says, "Hi, I just wanted to say you're doing great. I'm rooting for you to help out. I've modified your, what's that called, to something that we can't see." So there's some missing information here. We don't know who this is sending this, who's contacting us. But they seem to know a bit more about what's going on, and there's information that they're not sharing with us. But they tell us we're able to trade with other habitats. Yep, turns out there are other habitats. You're not totally alone, but you shouldn't make plans to visit them. They're basically inaccessible. But try it out. I'll leave it to you to decide whether or not you want to try to rip people off or send things out. Humanity always surprises me. So this gives you sort of your first hint that there's something interesting going on. And over the progression of the game at various inflection points, you're going to receive further messages and learn more information about who's sending these and why they're sending them to you. And that's the key element that we're progressing in the story. And again, this is like similar games in this sort of ARPG sim genre. It's not critically a story-focused game. But given how much effort I put into the backstory and the world, there's going to be information revealed over time that's going to make the world interesting and maybe make more sense in a sort of progressive fashion. So there's the whole sort of market and the first element in the quest chain of progressing the story. The other thing I want to show you here is the changes to the exploration scene. So I'm going to do my paranoid double check that we're all geared up here, and I'm going to send this person through the portal. Oh, one thing before I do that too, another thing that I added, you probably saw this if you pay attention to the Twitter account, is there's now skin-specific dialogue. So the explorers, it has that dialogue there. They say things when they get hired. They have actually things they say if they die during an exploration. They periodically monologue or they talk to each other. And there's a big bank of conversation. I've extended the game now that I can actually add skin-specific monologue. So if you have a custom skin, and there's one example of this that's on Twitter, our friend Spruik the DJ has his own custom skin in the game. So he has monologue that only explorers with that skin can have. Now, nice thing about this is I can vary some story elements, we can vary the humor, there's custom dialogue, it makes the skins more relevant. And over time, when we make some cool, microtransactions like Heather's mandatory angel thing, they'll be able to say things that only characters with that skin will ever say. And that's added to the bank of normal conversation. So they'll all do sort of the same things, but you'll get these nice little extra nuggets that are customized to the skins as we go. And I think that adds a little bit more richness and depth. It makes the skins, more meaningful and not just purely cosmetic, but they may deliver, information or humor or these other story elements. So I just wanted to mention that I didn't want to stage that for the demo, but you can check that out on the Twitter account. And the other thing, if you pay attention to Twitter, is we're now going to see the changes to the exploration scene. So we're going to send this person through the portal, and you'll notice it looks quite a bit different. We're not just moving across this bland scrolling star field. This is our indoor parallax exploration scene. Parallax, of course, means we have different layers moving at different speeds here. So I'm showing you the indoor scene. The foreground, which are these shadows of pylons and wires and so on, is going to scroll at a top layer. Our character is actually going to pass between them. So this is an example of a mid-ground, or basically a background-foreground parallax scene. There's another one, which I'm not going to show in this video. I'll probably do next week. There's another variant of this, which is an outdoor scene, which is 3 layers, background, midground, and foreground, where you have outdoors, of course, you have the sky, the foreground, and the ground the player is moving on, all operating on different speeds as well. And this reverses when they return to the portal and so on. So 2 scenes right now, just the indoor and outdoor. Probably going to be some visual variations on those. Not so much embellishments as palette changes and other things to give some variation. And then over time, the plan is also to create some custom locations for the portal cube-based destinations and anything relevant to the story. So you may encounter, for example, like a planet colonized by one of the species in the game, or other things that look quite different from the standard exploration scenes. So really happy with how this is turning out from an art perspective. Jammo Games, our art contractor, did a great job executing on this vision, and looking forward to producing more of these and adding more visual variation and depth and such to the game. So there you go. We now have our exploration scene with our Spruik soundtrack, potentially our Spruik individual dialogue, and then we have our nice exploration scenes. So I'm going to drop back to the ship here and pop out of the game. And so, yeah, that's the update for this week. So a lot of stuff went in the background to make this happen. And I know this is a longish video, but I think pretty cool demo. So the cross-player trading is coming along really well as a market, so you can engage with other players sort of asynchronously, which is part of the goal of the design of the game, being on the mobile platform, being that mass-style game. And then some additional kind of art content. The next thing that's coming from an art perspective, before we do more scenes and other things like that, we're actually working on the sprites and the animations for the enemies, so we can put the enemies into the scene. You can see what the enemies look like, and interact with them so that the exploration is a little bit more rich and meaningful. And then we'll probably dive into just creating more variations of those additional scenes, potentially some of the habitat expansion elements, and start creating some of those custom skins for the explorers as well to make those available. And that's really the goal for the beta, so we're getting very close to the closed beta if you're one of the people on that list. If you're not, hit me up on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, check out the website, email me, contact form. Million ways to get in touch. If you're interested in being a closed beta participant in this game, let me know. We can still add a few people. But we're probably, once we get the art in place for the enemies, we're probably going to launch into the beta there, which will be through that 1 to 10 level range. We're going to give people access to play with all the content, test the economy, the balance, the crafting, the items, and we're going to set up a little bit of a contest too, which should be fun to see who can accomplish various goals first during the beta. So there's your update for the week. This is actually, I recorded this multiple times, and this is the shortest run. So even though it's not shorter than last week, we had a lot of stuff to go through. So thanks for sticking with me. I'm going to go make a pot of tea and fix this whole thing. So as always, if you have feedback, comments, questions, I mentioned all those social media outlets. You can fire them at me. You may hear from me. You may hear from Heather, who's engaged in the project and doing a great job. So let us know what you have in terms of questions, feedback, suggestions. I think the progress has been pretty good, and we'll get this beta up and running shortly. Incorporate your feedback and move on from there. Thanks for your support, and have a great weekend.